Namaskar, I'm Adhunana Singh and you are watching my video channel Weaving Tales. And this is episode 16 of my series Song of Life, a poetic retelling of Mahabharata. And as you all know, in this series, I read some stanzas of my long poetry Song of Life and then tell relevant stories from Mahabharata related to those stanzas. So as I had told you that last time we had reached that where the Mahabharata war had just started and it was going to be the first day of the war and Bhishma was creating carnage on the battlefield. So let me read a few more stanzas ahead and then I will tell you the story behind it. Day 1 of the Great War, when the complete army stood ready to attack, Drishtadyumna was the supreme commander of the Pandava army. Firebound was he, like his sister Draupadi. He was the chosen one by his father to avenge the humiliation caused by Guru Drona. The supreme commander of the Kauravas was the legendary warrior Bhishma. 10,000 soldiers a day he killed, the one who was ceaseless, unstoppable. Massacred he for 10 days the Pandava army and created terror amidst all. The great-grandfather Bhishma was loved by Kauravas and Pandavas equally. Stalemate brought he to the war with his expertise and strategies. Fearsome was he on the battleground at large. The Mohan suggested the fall of Bhishma to be asked to the Great One himself. Thus the one revered by all, Gangaputra Bhishma, showed the way. Proclaimed he that he would keep his weapons down in front of a woman, or even in front of someone who was a woman in another birth. Kept down Bhishma his bow in front of Shikhandi. In a birth another, Amba was he. Thus to advantage Arjuna, showered arrows on Pitamaha. Warriors great and small, wise men and also enemies came to pay obeisance. The Mahatman, who lay on a bed of arrows, on meeting Yudhishthir, delivered lessons on Rajdharma. Soon the Grand Patriarch ended an era with his last breath on the day 1 of the winter solstice. So let's hear what happened every day on the battlefield. So the first day, as I told you, Bhishma Pitamaha blew his conch like a lion, and then there were cymbals and there were drums and other things which started, creating a crescendo and motivating the soldiers to fight their best, and the war started. Obviously, in between, as I told you, Sri Krishna told Arjuna why he should fight this war, and then they also blew the conches, and then the real war started. And wherever Bhishma Pitamaha went, he created carnage on the battlefield. And at the same time, Drishtadyumna was fighting a fierce battle with Dronacharya. And on the first day itself, there were death also. If you remember, there was a young boy called Uttar, who was the prince of the king of Magad. That is King Virat's son. He got killed by Shalya, the king of Madra. Shalya was the maternal uncle of Nakul and Sahadev. And I had told about him that by mistake he had joined the Kaurava army. And he had told this to the Pandavas, but Sri Krishna had said it doesn't matter even if you join the Kaurava army. So he killed the son of King Virat, that is Uttar, on the first day. And when the day ended, Bhishma Pitamaha had killed 10,000 soldiers, and there was like the earth was completely bloodied, and there were golden umbrellas, there were silver and golden armors all over, striven all over the battleground, and the earth was looking like a young bride, like covered and embellished with golden and silver jewelry. That was how the earth was looking. So then the second day started. On the second day, Arjuna asked Sri Krishna to take his chariot towards Bhishma Pitamaha. They located where Bhishma Pitamaha was, and the fight started. But Bhishma Pitamaha was like protected, was covered from all sides by the Kaurava army, and Arjuna could not break that formation and go near Bhishma Pitamaha. And so obviously then he had to go away from there. But Bhishma Pitamaha, obviously wherever he was going, as I had told you, every day he was creating carnage. So seeing that carnage, the sons of Draupadi. Draupadi had 5 sons from each one of her husbands. That Prativindya, Shrutasoma. Draupadi had 5 sons from each one of her husbands. Prativindya, Shrutakarma, Shrutasena, Shrutasoma. So these 5 boys, along with Abhimanyu, Nakul and Sahadev, and even Iravan. Iravan was another son of Arjuna from Ulupi, the snake princess. So all these 9 people, they counterattacked on Bhishma Pitama, and they tried to stop him from creating such carnage in the Pandava army. But none of them could match the prowess and skill of Bhishma Pitama, and then they had to scatter away. And on the second day also, the Drishtadyumna tried to find out where Drona was, and he had another day of fierce battle with Dronacharya. But Dronacharya defeated Drishtadyumna, and then Bhim had to go there and intervene and stop Dronacharya from killing Drishtadyumna, and he saved his Drishtadyumna's day. So this way the second day got over, and on the third day, once again, Bhishma Pitama got down in the battlefield with new vigor, and he started same way fighting fiercely with the Pandava army. So then Sri Krishna motivated Arjuna, and he told him that you had promised me that you would create great slaughter amongst the Kaura army, and you will fight this war the way you would have fought any other war, and you have to face Bhishma Pitama. So saying this, he rushed towards where Bhishma Pitama was standing, and seeing that the Arjuna's chariot is coming with full force towards him, Bhishma Pitama showered arrows, different kinds of arrows on Arjuna's and Sri Krishna's chariot. But Sri Krishna expertly maneuvered the chariot away from him, and his arrows could not do much harm. But then obviously Arjuna also counterattacked and tried to bring some semblance in the battlefield, and tried to motivate his forces, which seeing the overwhelming power of Bhishma Pitama was they were going down. So he brought some semblance in the battlefield. But then that day, Bhishma Pitama created a new formation, which was like a eagle, and he was in the middle of that formation. He was at the ahead of that formation, and he attacked the Pandavas. So seeing what he was doing, the Pandavas created a crescent shape formation, and on one hand, on the left side was Arjuna, in the center was Yudhishthir, and on the another side was Bhima, and this way they counterattacked. And Duryodhan was at the rear of that eagle formation. He was covering the rear. So Bhima and Ghatotkacha, they went towards the rear of this eagle formation, and both of them started fighting the Duryodhana forces. And Bhima's arrow struck Duryodhan, and he swooned. He became unconscious. So his charioteer, he took Duryodhana away from the fight. So, but seeing that their leader is not there anymore, the Kaura army started scattering away. So Bhishma Pitama had to leave his place, and he had to come there to gather the Kaura army and to motivate them once again. But then after some time, Duryodhana came back to his senses, and he came back in the battlefield. But then he was very angry with Bhishma Pitama. He accused Bhishma Pitama that he is showing leniency towards the Pandavas, and he is not fighting them the way he should fight. But obviously that was not true, but obviously it was Duryodhan, and so he started accusing. So obviously Bhishma Pitama was hurt with his harsh words, and then he got down in the battlefield after afternoon, and showered the Pandava army with celestial weapons. So seeing that Bhishma Pitama is using celestial weapons, even Arjun counterattacked with some celestial weapon, and that created a bloody river from the Kaurav clan, Kaurav side. The Kaurav forces were down in lakhs and thousands, and when the that day got over, there was an eerie silence in the Kaurav camp, and obviously triumph in the Pandav camp. So that day got over this way. So the fourth day also was no different. There was like great carnage, and many of the Kaurav princes, Duryodhana's brothers, died on that day. Eight brothers of Duryodhana died on that day, because Bhim was there in the front, and he was attacking the Kaurav army with great force. So seeing that he's like fighting this way, Duryodhana sent his force of elephants towards Bhim. So when Bhim saw that elephants are charging towards him, he got down from the chariot and he started single-handedly, fighting off the elephants. So the elephants scattered soon, and they created a stampede in the Kaurav army, and this way Duryodhan lost 8 of his brothers. So obviously that day he went back to his camp, and he was in tears, and he said, what is wrong? If I have more army, then why the Pandavas are still the same as me? They're matching my strength even after they having less of the army. So obviously Bhishma Pitama told him that because they are righteous, their side is the side of the truth. You can still stop this battle if you want. You can stop this war if you want. But obviously Duryodhana had come too much ahead, and obviously he wouldn't have listened to Bhishma Pitama. So this way the 6th day also dawned, and 6th day King Virat lost another of his son called Shankha. He got killed. But on the same day, the prince of Gandhara, Shakuni, he lost 7 of his brothers at the hands of Nakul and Sahadev. And so that day, both of them had their losses. On the 7th day, Duryodhana sent a Rakshasa named Alambush on the Pandava side with full force and with great attack. And actually the Rakshasa was creating great riot and great carnage amidst the Pandava army. But then Iravan, that is Ulupi's and Arjuna's son Iravan, he killed the king, that Rakshasa Alambush. And this way the 7th day also got over. On the 8th day again, another bloody river was flowing in the Kurukshetra. And then on the 9th day dawned, and once again Bhishma Pitama was there with his full force, with extreme vigor. He was fighting with the Pandavas, and once again there were bloody rivers flowing in the Kurukshetra. Today also Arjuna asked Sri Krishna to take his chariot towards where Bhishma Pitama was standing. He had promised Sri Krishna that today he will try to defeat Bhishma Pitama, and they went towards Bhishma Pitama's chariot, and the battle started. But Bhishma Pitama's prowess was so much, he was in his exhilarating best, and he was showering arrows after arrows, that Sri Krishna got overwhelmed. He was angry, he was upset that what is the Grand Patriarch doing? Is he going to finish the war today itself? And he lost his patience, and he had taken his vow that he would never pick up a weapon in this war. But he got down from his chariot and he picked up the wheel of a broken chariot, and he started charging towards Bhishma. When Bhishma saw that the Sri Krishna is coming towards him, he kept his bow and arrow down. But then Arjuna went behind him and he held his Sri Krishna's legs, and he begged him not to do anything, and why should he break his vow? He would do his needful. It is his duty to defeat the Grand Patriarch and not his, and he will do it. That please, Madhusudana, keep the wheel down. And then Sri Krishna kept the wheel down and he went back to the chariot. So when the 9th day got over, the Pandavas thought that it is time for doing a human sacrifice. The things are not going as per their thought, and somebody suggested then that they should do a human sacrifice, and that warrior should have 39 battle marks on his body. So they started searching for such warrior, and they came to know that there are only three warriors who have like 39 battle marks on their body, and they were Sri Krishna himself, then Arjuna, and then there was this young warrior Iravan, who was Arjuna's son. As I told you, that he was Ulupi and Arjuna's son. So they called Iravan, and they asked him that, are you ready for a human sacrifice? That we have to do this. We have been told that unless we do not do this, the things will not go as per our wishes. Ulupi had told the young Iravan that he doesn't have to go and participate in his father's war. She had told him that it is his war, you don't have anything to do. But Iravan had such great urge to meet his father and fight alongside him that he went there. He was not even recognized by Arjuna initially. He had to introduce himself that he is his son, and obviously Arjuna was glad to have such a skillful warrior by him. All hands and such skillful hands were obviously welcomed during that time. So, and he showed his valor. He fought alongside his father with great integrity and great bravery. And then today was this day that he was asked to sacrifice himself, and without thinking twice he said yes. But it is said that he said that since he was not married at that time, he said, I want to die as a married man. There should be somebody who is crying for him. So they started looking for a bride for Iravan, but they could not get any bride at that time, at the last hour. So it is said that Sri Krishna himself turned into a woman and he married him, and then they got married, and he spent his night, and then he was sacrificed. Later, Sri Krishna had this idea that why not go to the Grand Patriarch himself and ask him that what would make him stop. So the legend goes that Yudhishthir went to the Kaurav camp and during the night time, and he went inside Bhishma Pitama's tent. He bowed to him, he paid his obeisance, and then he asked him, what would make you stop? And the Grand Patriarch himself told Yudhishthir that if a woman comes in front of him, then he would not fight. He would keep his bow and arrow down. Or even if there is somebody who was a woman in his previous birth, then also he would keep his bow and arrow down. So obviously they got their hint. So the next day, when the 10th day came, the 10th day, Shikhandi was there on Arjuna's chariot. Now, who was Shikhandi? If you remember, I had told you in my first few episodes that there was a princess of Kashi called Amba, who along with her two more sisters was picked up by Bhishma Pitamaha for Vichitravirya, to be the bride of Vichitravirya. But Amba was in love. Amba was in love with Shalva, and she told Bhishma Pitama that you have two brides to get you married with Vichitravirya, to get them married with Vichitravirya. Then please let me go to Shalva. And so Bhishma Pitama let her go. But when she went to Shalva, Shalva rejected her, saying that you have been already taken, now I can't take you back. So she came back to Bhishma Pitama and she said, you are the one who had picked me up. It is your duty to get married to me. So you should. But Bhishma Pitama told her about his vow of celibacy and denied that you are free to go anywhere you want, but I can't marry you because I have taken a vow of celibacy. So the poor princess, she went from kingdom to kingdom asking people to help her out, but nobody wanted to get into this because they were fearful of Bhishma. They knew how powerful Bhishma was. So she went to Bhishma's guru, Parshuram also, and Parshuram was ready to fight Bhishma, and a long battle commenced, but it was inconclusive. There was no conclusion, and in the end Parshuram said, I cannot defeat Bhishma though he is my student. So Amba was left with nothing, and then she decided to jump into fire and take once again birth. And in the next birth, she obviously, Shiva had come to her, and he had told her that you would defeat Bhishma, you would kill Bhishma in your next birth. So that's why she jumped in the fire. And here she was, she took birth in the Panchal Desh as Drishtadyumna's elder sister. Actually, she was born as a girl and she turned into a young man. And there she was on the 10th day, standing on Arjuna's chariot. And they looked for Bhishma Pitama, and the chariot was brought in front of Bhishma Pitama. And Shikhandi obviously started his fight with Bhishma Pitama, but when Bhishma Pitama knew who was Shikhandi in his previous birth, and so seeing Shikhandi on the chariot, Bhishma Pitama kept his bow and arrow down, and then Arjuna from behind Shikhandi showered arrows on Bhishma Pitama, and it is said that there was not even a gap of 2 millimeters in between two arrows. Bhishma Pitama's whole body was covered with arrows and he fell down. And obviously, but he had this boon of dying at his own will. So he had taken this vow that he will see Hastinapur always there, that it should be there with a king, and he will not finish his life unless until Hastinapura's crown was like stable, and Hastinapura's crown was stable and secure. Till that time he will not die. So that's why even after his body being full of arrows, he did not like die. He still was alive. And obviously people stopped, the complete battlefield stopped fighting, and they all gathered around Bhishma Pitama. And obviously Arjuna was also there. So Bhishma Pitama told Arjuna that I am not able to keep my head properly, I am not comfortable. So Arjuna hit 2 arrows underneath his head, and he gave a pillow of arrows. And then he said, Bhishma Pitama said, I am thirsty. So he hit an arrow in the earth, and then there was this flow of water coming out of earth, and Bhishma Pitama had that sweet water. And many people from both sides paid obeisance to the great man who was not Bhishma Pitama did not die till he felt that the kingdom is secure. He had given this promise to his father Shantanu that he will always look after the crown of Hastinapur. So he saw to it that the Hastinapur is stable and secure and in the hands of a good king. He knew that the Kauravas are not going to make it in this war, and the Pandavas are going to win the war since they have Madhusudan along with them. So many people were coming there to pay their obeisance, to have this last meet with the great Patriarch, as he was the last one, actual one of the Bharat clan. He was the last Bharata. And he died on the first day of the winter solstice. And before he died, when Yudhishthira went to meet him, he gave him lessons about like life, politics. He gave him lessons of Rajdharm, and he also recited the Vishnu Sahasranam and told them the importance of Vishnu Sahasranam. And then on the first day of the winter solstice, he died. So that's all for today. I will stop my story today